Hi everyone, welcome to the first video tutorial I'm going to be doing for our software lectures. The first one I'm going to be looking at is an introduction to InDesign, and from here on in now I'm going to roll these out across the remaining lectures to give you a reference really for everything we cover in the lecture, because I appreciate there's a lot to take in and you can go away and forget a lot of what I've sort of shown on screen. So with these videos now you can go back in and go through things step by step and pick them up as they go. Okay, so let's start with InDesign, like I said. So if we fire up InDesign, and the first thing we do, as always, go to File, New Document, or Command N. Click that there. Right, as I always say, vitally important you pick the right setup for the document. So, web, if you're doing anything, obviously for web, for some sort of interactive PDFs or desktop publishing, or print, which is predominantly what you'll be using it for. Number of pages depends on the publication. So like with your menus, you would have set up a 2-page for the front and back, but you can set up a 28-page brochure, or any page brochure or something like that. Page size then, you got your presets here, orientation, portrait, landscape, and then you can also change this. I appreciate mine at the moment is in pickers, but I can change this to millimeters if I'd like. So there we go. I'll change that back to A4. Columns and margins, so like I said, you've got your presets there. Don't worry too much about these. You can always go back in and change these once a document has been created. And then bleed and slug them. Don't worry about slug. Bleed is the sort of important one here, as we sort of did with the printout of your book cover projects. You need bleed to print out so that you can cut it properly. So if I just had a 3mm bleed here and I click OK, and there we go, there's my document there. Now the first thing I'm going to do, you see I got my rulers on here. If I go to File, if I go to InDesign Preferences General, and I go to Units and Increments, and I set horizontal to mil and vertical to mil, I'll now have the entire thing in millimeters, which is what I'm after. So there we go, that's changed. Right, so the first thing I'm going to go through is the pages. So as you can see there, I've got a simple page set up here. There's my margin there. There's the edge of the page, which is hopefully where it'll be cut to, and then the red line around the side is my bleed. And I can toggle this with Command and colon. So if I click there and there, or I can go to View, Grids and Guides, Hide Guides or Show Guides. Right, so go to Pages. Now at the moment I've got a one page there, so if I want to add pages, all I got to do is there, create new page, 2, 3. So I just zoom that out, 4, 5, there we go, and I can delete pages in this way as well. So let's just get rid of that there too. Right, now you'll know I've got two things up here then. I've got none and I've got the A master. Now the master is basically the master slide really, and if you, as you see, these got A's there and A applied there. Now with the master, anything I change here will directly affect these two, and this is really important because, like I said, if you set up a 28-page or 40-odd page, 100-page document and you want to go in and change something, you don't really want to go in page by page and change it. You want to go do it in one go. So all I got to do is simply I can either click here to select the 2 pages, or I can double click to go into the master, and there we go, that's my A master. To come out, all I've got to do is double click back there, and I'm back to here, page 1 and page 2. So if I go back in, now let's make some basic changes to this. So if I go to File, Document Setup, and let's just say I want more bleed. So I'll just set that up to 10mm, let's just say. Click OK, fantastic. Let's just go to Layout, Margins and Columns, and let's just say I want a much bigger margin, so say that's 20mm. There we go, and let's just say I want a column as well. So if I say 2, and I'll change the gutter, which is the width of the column, to 20mm. And I click OK. So there we go, I've got my change there. Now if I come out of here now, you can now see the page 1 and 2, because they've been applied to A, have changed. So like I said, very important when you're applying this across the entire document. Now if I want to create multiple masters and apply them to different pages, that's really simple. All I got to do is click here, go to New Master, prefix B, yep, you can call it whatever you want. I'll go with B, that's absolutely fine. I click OK. Now I'm in the B master here. Can you see if I double click I can come out? So I go back into B master. Now let's just add some stuff to this. So if I go to my type tool, I'll just create that very quickly, center that, 36, and let's just say Dale's layout. Fantastic. And then if I go to layout, margins and columns, and let's just say, I don't know, I want a much smaller margin with this, so let's just call it a 5mm or something like that. And I click OK. There we go. So now if I come out of this, double click there. Now let's just add a couple of pages to this. So 3, 4, 5. So you can see now these have been applied to the A. Now if I click here, if I click 4 and 5, and then I simply hold Alt and click the B master, there we go, they'll change to the B master. So as you can see now, you can set up multiple master styles up here, and then you can come down here then and apply them to different pages. And you would set up your document in this way as you go, or to begin with, set up the entire thing and then drop in the copy as you will. So that's pretty straightforward. So if I just delete my B master there, yep, that's fine. And I'll just delete these 3 pages here, delete there, and I've got a simple 2-page setup now. Let's go back into the A master and let's just get rid of that column. And there we go. So I'm back to the beginning then. So like I said, setting up your pages, a great way to keep the styles going and to have really good control over the document. So let's address probably the most important thing really you'll work with in InDesign, which is the copy or your text. You'll work with documents, multiple pages long, and you will obviously have to address, a lot of copy and a lot of text that the client gives you. And before I go any further, as you'll notice as well with this, a lot of these, well, pretty much in Photoshop, Illustrator, and InDesign, all pretty much follow the same layout when it comes to the layout on the page. For example, on the left-hand side here, you've got what I like to call your cursor icons. These change what the cursor looks like, and these really apply stuff directly to the artboard. If you go up top here, now up top is a toolbar which is really dedicated to what you're working on the page. So for example, if I select the selection tool here, I've got my selection options there. If I then go to my type tool, can you see how now it gives me options related to the type tool? So this stuff kind of makes this redundant, but I'm still going to keep this stuff here, for sort of complete control, because you don't get all the options with this here. But it's sort of like a quick fix, really. If you do some text, you can quickly change the font up there. And then on the right hand side then is what I like to call your windows or your palettes, and these are really your styling options. You use these to control what's going on the pages, and apply certain styles or certain attributes to different elements of the page. And if I ever sort of refer to a palette or a window or anything like that, and you can't see it here, all you've got to do is go to window, and everything, all these windows here will be here somewhere, and all you've got to do is simply click them, and then they'll appear here, and you can drag them into your layout or your screen setup, so to speak. Okay, so if we go over to the type tool, obviously something we're all familiar with, hotkey T, and if I click that, and let's just zoom in here. Now in InDesign, everything really needs to be boxed. InDesign wants you to box everything up so that you can lay it out accordingly with the margins and with the columns. So if I just click and drag here, and there we go. See, I've got my smart guides on, so it's telling me where the center is. And just for argument's sake now, I'll go to type, fill with placeholder text, just to give me something to work with. So there we go, I've got some basic text to work with there. Now if I bring out my my character palette and my paragraph palette, there we go, and put them there. Now these two are probably two of the most common, two of the most important you use in InDesign, simply because of the amount of text you'll be working with. So if I just zoom in here, with my character palette then, if I just highlight this, I've got all my basics options here. I can change my font to whatever. I can change the weight of the font, size of the font comes up here. I've got my leading then, in between the different, the space between the sentences. I've got my tracking here, which I apply to multiple words within the paragraph, or I've got my kerning, which I apply to simply, between two letters here. And you can have optical or metric kerning, depending really on what you're going for. Metric uses measurements. Optical is more to do with the way you look at certain words. I don't know all these options down here, stretching fonts and stuff like that. You don't really want to do that kind of stuff. And then obviously then the paragraph panel, so you've got your alignment tools, center, right, left, justified, and then you got your indents as well then here, so you can indent paragraphs and all sorts like that. So plenty of options there to give you plenty of control. Another option I like as well is to dehyphenate, because I don't like hyphenated words within the paragraph, and that's something you can use there as well. So like I said, you're going to be working with a lot of text within InDesign. So as I've been going on about since the beginning, styles are very important. And there's two ways really we can address styles here, and it's through character styles and the paragraph styles. So if they're not there, go to Window, Styles, and then Character Styles and Paragraph Styles. I've got them here already in my setup. So I just drag these out here, click that there, and bring the paragraph styles in there. So basically what's going on here is I can set up a style and then I can apply it then to as much or as little as I want within the document. So let's just grab my type tool and let's just highlight this bit here, and I'm going to create a simple style. So for example, let's just change the font to chunk 5, let's put the font weight down to 10, let's put the leading up a touch to 17, 18 even, and I can even change the color. Let's just simply go to color, and let's go to swatches even, and let's just actually that's a bit too light, let's just pick a blue there. So there we go. So I've got a style going on there. So if I highlight that and I simply click down here, create new style, and there we go, there's paragraph style 1. So if I come off this, now if I double click into paragraph style, I've got all the characteristics of this style, and it goes quite in depth really. It's very OCD InDesign as a piece of software. So you can go this sort of pedantic if you want, but generally, I mean, these are the sort of few you're going to be using here. Or as I prefer to do, you can amend it on screen. So I've got this paragraph style here. If I want to roll it out to these guys here, all I've got to do is if I simply use my type tool, I click here and I apply paragraph style 1, and there we go, it applies that paragraph style to that paragraph. If I click here, paragraph 1, and so on. And that's how it works. So as you're building the document, you will apply the styles to it as you go. Now if I want to make a change to this, all I've got to do, let's grab this paragraph here, and let's just say I want to change it. Let's go back to my swatches, change it back to black. 9.8. Let's just put the leading back, and let's change the font to Mini and Pro. There we go. Now if I click off here, if I leave this highlighted, now you can see the paragraph style 1, it's got a little plus sign next to it. Now what that means is you've made a change. So all I got to do to address that is I click up here, I click redefine style, and then as you can see then the style has then been applied across all the paragraphs I've applied that style to. And we're the same with character really, but with character, rather than clicking there and applying the style, you would simply select the specific characters you want to apply that style to, and then you'd select them then within the block of text you've got. So for example, if you wanted to change certain words, make them certain colours, something like that, you'd use your character styles. So these two are a really good way of sort of controlling really, if the client comes to you and says, I love what you've done, but I want the font size to go up a touch, all you've got to do is do it in here, and then the entire document then, if you style it all, should change accordingly. So there we go. That's using styles there, pretty straightforward stuff. So if I just bring these over here, bring that up to there. Right, okay, so the next thing I want to show you now is a thing called threading. So for example, in a newspaper, you think you've got a 5-6 column layout, and the text generally flows, from sort of up to down, then across, up, down, and across. And there's a way of doing this really easily. So if I just create a text box here, and I fill it with placeholder text, So I've got to type fill placeholder text. There we go. Let me just zoom that in. And what I'll do then is I'll bring this up so I cut this off. There we go. Now can you see that little sign, little mark there? That basically means there's an overflow of text. So you haven't reached the bottom of the text you've dropped into the bounding box. So if I create another bounding box here, so say I want this to be my second column, there we go. And all I got to do to thread this into here is simply click here. Let's just, double click it. Bring that across to here. Now you can see now I've got a little link going on here. That basically means link this with this. And then all I got to do is click, and there we go. The text now threads from here through to here. And that should be all of it. If I bring this up here, grab my bounding box, and I create a third column, I'll just put that there very quickly. Click here, and I click there, and there we go. Now the text is threading from there through to there through to there. If I want to get rid of this, all I got to do is this left top left icon in the box, double click that, remove the threading, double click that, and it all comes back down to here. So threading is a great way really to control the amount of text you're dropping into a document, and rather than sort of trying to set up text boxes and copy and paste certain bits of text into them, you can just run the whole thing as a seamless flow. And there's one final thing I want to show you now. So let's just type fill with placeholder text. There we go. So I've got two text boxes here now. And what I want to show you now is something called the baseline grid. And if I go to View, Grids and Guides, Baseline Grid, I can see a grid now has appeared behind my text. And what the baseline grid does is basically it keeps all the text in line with each other. So for example, if I've got this here, let's just zoom in there, and say for example I put an image in or something like that, and it pushed the text down slightly. Can you see now how this isn't lining up with this? And it's really important to sort of get into good habits, and you line up your text properly and everything like that. So all I have to do, just zoom out of that, highlight these two, selection tool. Then if I go to my paragraph panel, and I've got do not align to baseline grid, align to baseline grid. If I click that, there we go. Now all my text is aligning with the baseline grid. And you'll see now, if I try and move this, if I go here and I move this up, can you see how the text isn't moving until it can reach the next line? So whatever you do with that, then it will keep the text locked in as best it can. So if you were to drop in headings or something like that, they would only, however big or small you make them, they wouldn't go up until they get to a size which allows them to fit on the next line. And this is really important, for sort of precision within your layout and keeping everything in a seamless flow. If I go type tool, click here. Now the leading is really important when it comes to the baseline grid. Can you see here my lead is 9.6? And that is the distance between these, obviously between my sentences. Now if I remember that number 9.6 and I go to Preferences, General, and I go to Grids. Now can you see the baseline grid there? Every increment 12 points. Now I can change that to 9.6, click OK, and now can you see the text now will be lined up with its default leading setting, which obviously then will stop big gaps appearing or something like that. And if I push this back up here, then it goes back to the normal line. And that is a basic introduction to InDesign there. So we've covered a few things, styling pages and using text accordingly. So like I said, get practicing with that. As I always say, it's really important that you get used to using these styles. Even if it's a 2-page document, you'd be surprised how much time it'll take to go through and change everything when you can simply just apply your styles down here. And everything will change accordingly. So that's that, get practicing, and move on to the next tutorial when you're done.